Hello, my name is Christina Gossett, and I am doing my informative speech on serial killers. More specifically, Ted Bundy, Jack the Ripper, and the Zodiac Killer. Ted Bundy once said, "We, serial killers, are your husbands, we are your sons, and we are everywhere." Dr. H.H. Holmes is considered to be the first serial killer to ever show up in America, killing almost 27 people in the 1800s. How can one person be responsible for so many deaths? Not only are they their children, they're our children, and so on. Ted Bundy, Jack the Ripper, and the Zodiac Killer all took trophies from their victims. Combined, all of these serial killers, we have 100+ victims. Ted Bundy took the heads of his victims and would keep them in his household, and sometimes would even sleep with them at night. For example, Joni Lenz lived in a sorority house in Florida. She was attacked inside the sorority house, and she was one of the very few who didn't have her head taken from her, but she did have clothes taken from her, which, considering that he killed 4 people that night, is pretty okay. The next victim of that night was Linda Ann Healy. He mutilated her and sliced her throat, then took her head and hid it for a year. A year after her death, it was found, and Ted Bundy then admitted to 4 other heads he had hidden. Jack the Ripper's favorite trophy to take was an organ. Catherine Eddowes was a victim he had in the Whitechapel, England, and he took her kidney. The next victim was Annie Chapman. She was a prostitute, and he mutilated her body, sliced her throat, and took out her uterus and parts of her vagina. The Zodiac Killer took a different sort of trophy, I guess you'd say. After he killed the taxi cab driver, he took his bloody shirt, a section of it, took his car keys and his wallet with him, and at the next killing, he left those items at the murder scene. It is still unknown whether he took the wallet and the keys for evidence measures, but we do know that they are considered his trophies. Each of these killers also have a signature. A signature is something that the killer does, but he doesn't necessarily need to do to complete the kill. Ted Bundy's signature was strangulation, rape, and mutilation. Margaret Bauman was one of his victims, and she was strangled and raped and left for dead on the side of the road in Tennessee. Karen Chandler, she survived the Zodiac Killer's attack, but has no recollection of the attack because he beat her so hard in the head. Jack the Ripper's signature was his letters and his organ stealing. He always started his letters with "Dear Boss" and ended with "Yours truly." An example of what he said was, "I will clip the lady's ear off. I'm sorry about the mess, boss." He always addressed the lead detective as boss. The Zodiac Killer's signature was his ciphers. Because he was so bold and unpredictable, the police consider these letters taunts. An example of what he said was, "She died hard. She squirmed and shook as I choked her, and her lips twitched too." The Zodiac Killer is known for his crosshair signature that he would write in the victim's blood at crime scenes. Lastly, the victims of the Zodiac Killer are not remembered as much as the rest because the Zodiac Killer was never identified. Lastly, 2 of the 3 of the serial killers I'm talking about left letters for the police. That is Jack the Ripper and the Zodiac Killer. Jack the Ripper's first letter was sent September 27th, 1888. He claimed to have written 9, but it's still questionable how many he really sent because some of them were sent by fans of him. An example of what was written in his letter was, "Because I have you when you don't expect it, and I keep my word as soon as you see and rip you up. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper." Jack the Ripper used these codes to taunt the lieutenant so he wouldn't be on his case. He wouldn't be after the killer, he'd be after who wrote the letters. And even if they were his fans, they helped him get away with it. The Zodiac Killer's ciphers were a little bit more difficult to figure out. But in his famous 340 cipher, it was deciphered, or decoded I should say, by a man in California, and it read, the last few sentences obviously, "I've killed 11 people. Please help me stop. Please. My name is Arthur Lee Allen." The police tracked down Arthur Lee Allen and was tried for these crimes but was never convicted. Within these letters/ciphers that the Zodiac Killer wrote, he connected the murders that he made. For example, he would always talk about Miss Bates. He was his favorite victim. And then he would connect them in other letters such as the 340 cipher. In conclusion, a quote from FBI agent Greg McCrary. "Psychopaths commit crimes because why not? They have no compunction against hurting others or killing others. They've done a lot of brain scans and found out that those who are psychopaths or sociopaths have different brain scans than those who aren't." Thank you. That is my informative speech on serial killers.